And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, hello. Come round. It's Navi versus Rogue. And it's game number 2 for us here today. Welcome back to the studio live in Paris, France. Beautiful day today, actually. So you join us for more Rainbow Six. I'm also the medic host for the show. And we've got Ace and Jess on the analyst desk. We're going to get through our 2 rosters, starting off with Rogue, who are having a bit of a stage 2.
Yeah, a bit of a stage 2, and you can sort of throw that whichever way you like. I think there's a lot of lessons being learned. I think there's a lot of role swaps that they have tried to do, and of course trying to fit people into areas that maybe are sheltering them a little bit more than necessary, and some are flourishing as a result. But overall, that doesn't sort of convert into wins. They are currently at the bottom of the leaderboard. They were tied bottom with Unknights, but Unknights now has 1 entire point more than them. If they want to finish at least not dead bottom, they're going to have to put on some kind of performance today, and it is going to have to be at least an overtime win.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly been difficult for them, hasn't it? And talking about difficulty, we move on to Na'Vi, who suffered a bad loss to Vitality earlier this week. So really for me, this roster is going to have to answer an important question today, and that is, how do they deal with a little bit of adversity there in the middle of the stage? They've taken a tough one. Blur, Dorke, going very well so far. All the players are still highly rated within the league. It is just about now, how do they respond? Rogue could be meeting them at a really bad time here. It could be like a hornet's nest has just been hit with a big stick and now just been thrown to Rogue to catch, you know. It could be. Or Navi, they could be a bit battered and bruised by that.
Sure.
All right, our head-to-head, 1 player out of each one of these 2 teams. What do my friends here select? Let's see him up. It is Nathan and Rips, players that we haven't previously highlighted on here.
No, today I really wanted to bring up Nathan specifically because of how many plants he's been putting down on the ground for Na'Vi. He's actually tied 3rd in the leaderboards, I believe, with Cactus, and who else is he tied around? With Shepard, of course, from Empire, as you would naturally expect. He is up there. The only person that beats everyone is Bride on 14 plants as a whole, and he doesn't really share the load. That is his job to do. He's the one to get the plant down. Whereas you look on the side of Rogue, both Rips and Leon both have 4 plants, and they have a very low survival rating, both of them. So they're clearly not surviving long enough, even after a post plant, to be getting these plants down.
No, and that's the thing, you know, that's going to lead to your lower plant numbers, because then the rest of the team either have to step in, get the diffuser and get it down, or you just don't get the plants at all, is the top and bottom of it. But Nathan is a great shout, because it's not just in terms of plants or necessarily the stats that we see there on the screen, but I can tell you that Nathan has been extremely consistent throughout this stage as well. His growth has been great, his performances are getting better and better, and he really is growing into this Na'Vi roster now. I know he's been there for a little while, but we're just starting to see that really settling in now, and it's going great for Nath.
It really takes time to not just play well, but also consistently play well and be within the top 4. Kovana, we thought that they would continue to be in the top 4 after their last stage performance, but seems like other teams have picked up the pace and moved beyond what Kovana was given in stage 1. That's why I will continue to say it until my final day on this earth. It takes longer for you to stay at the top than it does, and more effort to stay at the top than it does to even get there. So a bit of a life lesson for everybody watching out there. Which map will we be playing on, though, in this series? That is my next question, and our map ban is up.
What?
Oregon.
I'm so sorry.
Emin Happercast.
Casting? That doesn't sound right, Milosh.
Is this the 7th time in 10 days that they cast this game?
I mean, they're going to know the call.
I know Haps has some stats for it, I'm sure. So Rogue on the attack here, Na'Vi on the defense. How do the numbers reflect this?
If I'm going to look over towards Rogue specifically in the numbers, the fact that they got rid of Villa and went to Oregon astounds me. They haven't gone to Villa in since the start of the year, so no wonder they're clearly trying to avoid that map. But to go to one of their worst maps, statistically, I mean, they didn't have a choice. They had a 50-50. I would have gone to a fresh map, a map that I haven't played competitively for almost the entirety of 2021, and tried it on there, because honestly, Rogue, they have nothing to lose anymore. Why not just go to another map? Why go to a map you have a very poor rating on and that the other team is likely to beat you on? I don't know if you see something different there in the numbers, but
Na'Vi have played it once in Stage 2. They've won it once, but what I will say is that Na'Vi were poor on the attack. So keep an eye on that. They were absolutely, completely solid on defence. They won every single one of their defensive rounds, but they did struggle to get attacking rounds done. So it could be a little bit of a crack for Rogue to work away at. Could be particularly their defensive half. They might do all right there.
Very quickly, operators to look at for Rogue, maybe to remove to make their attacking side easier?
Compositionally, I mean, there's always the Maverick that Na'Vi like to take. They also like a little bit of the Valkyrie, Melusi, those types of ones. So if they really want to dig in the skin, they might be able to remove one of those. But I guarantee we won't see too many funky bans.
No, I think I'd agree with Jess there. I think disruption and information, get rid of those. That's going to be what Na'Vi try to thrive off on defence. And that's the thing, you've got to target their defence more than their attack because they struggled with their attack previously.
All right, let's see then how it goes. Jess, Ace, thank you so very much. It is time for us to toss it then to our game. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Rogue versus Na'Vi, and they're going to Oregon. And who would have thought it's Fluke and Hap that are casting another Oregon. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, and yes, you're right, we're back, like estate agents that can't quite get rid of the haunted house where we keep showing people around there and they all just keep dying, and we'll never quite get it off the market. So, Oregon, between these two teams, well, what lessons have we learnt?
That is going to be the question, what lessons have we learned? Something that stood out to many of the broadcasts we have had on this map is that the main pushes don't really seem to be coming from blue anymore every now and then. Sometimes entire teams are just focused on a freezer or laundry push, for example. That is talking about the bottom floor. Still pretty 50-50 in terms of what side gets played on the middle floor, and of course on the top floor, always multiple ways to go at it. First though, operator bans. What will be removed and what kind of an impact will it make? The Zofia gone is an interesting one. That is not just going to be potentially a counterban towards, Rogue, but also has 2 impacts and 2 lifelines. A lot of utility.
It's a removal that can sort of scarp a lot of things. Obviously, we've seen that she is about to go through a little bit of a remodeling as well. She's sort of come into a big blow of force, and they're trying to find the balance there. They're trying to find that sort of, how can we get this all threaded together? How can we build this to something that can, I guess, not be as prevalent, and removing it at the minute in a current state, that can be something that really does, I guess, pull some punches away from a potential quicker attack.
In the meantime, we have Thermite and Mirror removed as well. The Valkyrie will now be taken care of as well. So, Valkyrie understand the black eyes that are being tossed out can be very powerful on a map like Oregon. Very often we do see runouts. Often, cameras hidden inside of the school bus, but also on the outside, just around the stage area. That gives us a set of operators that are no longer needed. And we do see Crying on the Rogue now. So the Sophia's gone. That means you still need the explosives to deal with potential shields or with verticality. And the Ash will be brought back out. Ash and Flores, both operators that basically completely absorbed the pick rate of Ash in the past. But yeah, well, with the Zofia ban, you'll have to bring it back.
Bit of a conversation going on between two teams that are very familiar with each other at this point, as we all are. We saw a bit of a sick pick bait there. Obviously, the Monty was originally in the hands and there wasn't a Hibana. Instead, going with the double hard destruction. This lineup that Rogue is bringing is minus the Sophia. Like, if Sophia was there in the place of the Ash, it's literally, these are the operators that came in to replace Ash.
Definitely so. Sophia, Diana, Flores. Definitely so. A lot of replacements on that board. However, they're forced to go back to the good old Ash, the original entry fragger that has lived and reigned Siege for a long time. Due to the R4C nerf, you could say. Due to the more recoil, the extra kick to it. It's not
the
really
removal of a pellet.
Well, yeah, first she had 2, then she got 3, and then they removed 1 again.
Yeah.
It's been...
They were like, wait a second.
Wait,
what have we done?
That is too much.
Yeah, and now, obviously, Zafira, as I said, she's going to go through some changes coming up as well. So it's sort of seeing where that will... Iana will go next instead. But the pressure starts to come around the backside of Shower. Steady droning. They can't quite get the handle. What is that picture of Crying? That is amazing, and I'm assuming...
No
We didn't have the player cam, but to be honest,
I'm not mad.
This is just as good.
This is definitely just as good. What a great picture that is. As we head back to not crying. Here we go. It's just entry. No, not really entry. Just trying to clear out the top part, trying to find some control and setting up some verticalities. Whereas the side of Na'Vi active around the kitchen corridor, active around the freezer stairs, and potentially even meeting. Is Rogue that needs to clear them out and need to clear them out very fast. As Crying here, we're spotting a player going down from the big tower.
It's a very spread out approach here from Rogue. They're all sort of, goodbye, being a little bit on their own, and this is the problem with that now. There's nobody that's instantly able to get the swing on the far approach that Cryan was trying to get across the top here. They're focusing their attention around meeting, and I guess they've sort of said, right, well, we had a body on Attic, and they might think there's a second coming, so they're still going to pull away. They're not going to try and stick there in the meantime, but with Blur still buried around this sort of spot, with that staircase still a big part and possible of rotation. If this has gone unchecked,
it's not been droned.
This could be a bit of a disaster. The drone is on the back boards. They're focused on something entirely different. Blur, you just have to press Q right now and lean to your side. You see ahead.
Is this trick of discipline right here? Leon Gates will fall back. Blur is still in here. They have no clue. He's just waiting for the right moment. He might be even waiting until they go for an eventual push. There he goes. Stands up now. Picks up the kill. Drops down the hatch. This is an assassination from Blur. With great trigger discipline. And now the rest of Rogue is like, what just happened? Where did he go? Where did he come from? As a grenade's being tossed in secretly, will be forced to fall back. But not dealing enough damage to make it a threat, really.
Wow, they're still able to sort of long-arm some utility towards the approach here. Freeze is going to start to be collapsed. Great take from Leon there as they're kind of getting a bit of control. But you look at the fact that there's 20 seconds. They've sort of constructed themselves. I don't think they're confident with the Reebox control, so instead they're just going to try and strong-arm their way through. Another canister pops, as does Doki. Swings on that opener to the backside of Freezer. Cools them off for the second there. 10 seconds. Just Aces trying to find his way back ground, but with only a handful of seconds. And not much else to your name. There's not much else that you can do at this moment in time. Na'Vi take the first with a hold, where they very much punish Rogue's mistakes.
Definitely so, and it's just a small misdrone, you could say. And I get it, it's not really a spot that you would normally drone for. Who goes prone right behind the sandbags? You know what I mean? Like, it barely happens. It almost never happens. I can guarantee you, though, that a lot of ranked players will now use it. They'll be hiding themselves inside of there, hoping to be able to pick up a kill. So better start droning that, everybody. As Na'Vi managed to pick up a great kill on the back of it, wasting the Hibana. And you might be wondering, okay, well, but the hatch was already open. Like, the job was already done. But it's still some scars that you can use to create extra angles, to, well, waste the Iruni laser gates as well, the Surya laser gates, because you have 18 of those pellets. And you can shoot them in 2 per time. So that means you theoretically could have 9 charges of it, of 9 shots, rather.
Up to dorms. Up to dorms we go. Frost is on the board, and that'll obviously, you know, that sort of shield, the 1.5. Saves was one of the first people that, when that change got made, swung onto it, and then, you know, when it was still a little bit cool, a little bit fresh, a little bit new, said, well, it's a 1.5 on a pretty good gun and a shield. Here it is, there's Blur. And at this point, again, you know, I know I highlighted it before, Rogue, they went for a pretty spread out push in general. This is another time where it was punished, and I know you can't really predict that at that moment in time, as you said, the man hiding behind the sandbags, but I guess it's a little bit of a cavalier attitude against a team like Na'Vi, who can be very freewheeling, they can be very brave.
That's it. Especially Blur, the man who in stage 1 suddenly turned into the hero of Na'Vi, especially against the game against VP. That's really where he put his name onto that game as the, well, rightfully so MVP, and ever since, Blur has been, you know, that star on Na'Vi that you have to pay attention to. The clutch factor is just so insanely high on him. And as now Na'Vi are trying to hold off passive angles through the Surya laser gates, it's Nave that will have to take care of a drone as he tries to rotate out from the basement. Secretly with the open wall here, could be challenged. They're just going to try and find the angles. They're just going to try and find the gunfights. And it scares Rogue off a little bit. They might not be as confident as they normally would be. Blur gets the kill on Todoki. Corey, I must say, that is the diffuser dropped as well. And that means they need to go and recover that. It just costs you an extra 10 seconds, but it's 10 seconds that you cannot use elsewhere.
Well, there's Leon getting a little bit of revenge, and I prefer this sort of setup and stack here as they try and dig their way across, but secretly likes it quite a lot too. Rips tears his way back round onto the walk-in. That's that kind of nightmare about this opener, is you never really know. They're going to treat it like a very dangerous ring around the roses and make sure that they can sort of get those width, that swing, and that's why they're steadily using these drones, just to open themselves up a little bit more of an angle. They can play a little bit safer from those armory stairs. They can sort of try and drive their angle. They have a minute 20. They have a lot of time to try and formulate it, but so do Na'Vi. You can see Nath has come all the way back up from being on the freezer stairs to make sure he can offer some support from the top of white. They've sort of got the idea, okay, this is where the push is coming from, and as Flores tries to steadily burn away a little bit more utility, they're just gonna actually be in a bit of a tricky spot. There's a pop, there's a spray, there's saves, and there's a take on aces.
It's always a bit tricky when you have to run back over the Retiro. You never know if it's going to be blowing up just in time to catch you, but plenty of time here for the run back as Krine, aware of the fact that he's being shot, gets a beautiful shot onto Sage, brings it back to a 2-on-2, is getting shot from Kids. Has no clue, however. 2-on-2 now, it's passive angles being held by both the Na'Vi members, and that's all they need to do, really, because they need to start pushing through at some point. If they want to go for the plant, there's two players that can just swing out to a very low HP Krine.
The bulletproof is gone. That was causing a lot of issues from that trophy door swing, and that's the thing about this take now. But Rips from deep is able to take care of one. Nath yet again is going to try and reposition and reformulate in a place to try and put some punishment back in, but they seem to have a bit of an awareness. With only 10 seconds, though, they need to try and get this diffuser in and covered. If Nath can pull one of these two bodies out of it, which he's almost able to do there, finally, and the diffuser goes down with it too, but Rips is in the right position. Rogue restructuring themselves on that approach and making sure that they have the cover to get a bit of revenge that otherwise Na'Vi were able to fly unpunished previously.
A lot of the shots missed there onto the Ash, who was quite low on HP, you have to say. Really should have been the kill coming out a little bit earlier. Wasted half the magazine and thus had to go for that reload, which basically forced you out of a position, allowing Rips to go for that clutch, allowing Rips to go for the final kill. And then suddenly that 3-on-2 situation for Rogue turns into a 1v1. Or 1v2 rather. Which they almost managed to win, but really shouldn't have went the way it did. And Na'Vi will choose to run it back. They again are going to that top floor. Now, for everybody watching at home, what are the stakes of this matchup? Na'Vi is currently in the top 4. And I think they would like to stay there very much.
I mean, you would assume so.
You would assume so, you know.
It's just think that's where they want to be.
Just a trip to Mexico, to get some extra aside points.
Yeah.
Luckily for them, they already managed to win stage 1. There was no major then, there was no playoffs, no finals, and that means they just got a straight up 510 aside points. So they're already sitting pretty good. If they manage to get into that top 4, they will fight at the major for 225 points plus bonuses. So that would even put them up higher, and I'm not going to say it already confirms them for SI, but it at least puts them in a really good spot.
Puts them in a great spot.
They really want to make sure that they're not dropping out of the top 4 here. And they are the team that is unfortunately on the edge right now. 12 points is what they have. Vitality is shortly following up with 10. They play against G2 later. So Na'Vi, well, they need to fall 3 points to at least stay 5 ahead of Vitality and potentially, you know, get themselves in a bit of a safer spot after the G2 game as well.
It's the strange thing about how this EU split has gone is we've seen a lot of teams have a bad chunk of games and a good chunk of games. There's not really, outside of Rogue, been a team that has generally entirely struggled, but even then, Rogue's put in great fights on some of their games, which could have gone their way. They were able to get to OT a couple times as well, and, you know, it unfortunately didn't go their way every time, but still, in a league that's still this competitive, in a league where you're still having what is one of those top 4 teams that's been pretty steady versus that team that's currently on the bottom of the board, this early, they're sort of still testing each other. They're growing into each other, growing into this game. And I'm going to talk about the fact that we've seen a growth here on the attack, a very different stratum so far. They're going for a much wider spread here. They're going to try and draw some focus away. Potentially didn't think that funneling themselves entirely via trophy was as profitable as it could have been with a huge amount of utility dedicated there. They're instead going to offer themselves some width around attic and tower by the looks of it.
Definitely so. As he rotates, coming around, Doki just in the armory hallway, has that shield to use to fall back. In this, flashbangs are being tossed out. It's just a bit of cover for Aces to start repelling into the armory. The pressure is coming in from the highway as well. There's an RC Retiro just waiting around the corner. Skrine is receiving a little bit of pressure, will be taking care of the default cam, but the information will already be given. Doki has fallen back into the attic now. This is jumping from the Gemini replicator. Of course not going to be jumping in with the real deal. ADSs are picking up some of the S charges though, and now Skrine is waiting a little bit. That could be dangerous because if it's more than 10 seconds, that ADS will recharge.
Well, Secretly's reinforced the walk-in wall there and made sure that it's re-jammed up. They've realized that a huge amount of pressure's coming through. Yep, doubled down on a mistake, and unfortunately it cost them in the end. But look at this, Aces has just dragged himself through right into the core of Trophy here, surrounded by the dead animals, so he probably doesn't want to stick here too long, but he also doesn't want to turn into some of the taxidermy that's otherwise decorating the room. Corey has a long angle towards the kids' dorms. He's looking to see if anybody swings. He's trying to apply that back pressure, but one of the changes we see here right now from Na'Vi is they have a body underneath still at this point in time, and they've brought everybody back round, but we still have Nath playing with only 10 seconds left. It's going to be Blur that opens it up, and they know that Rogue has to try and throw themselves in. Rips and Doki find one apiece. Doki caught underneath, suddenly just Rips left yet again, and not for very long. It was a bit of a team kill there.
Yeah, where did that come from? I'm wondering. Like, I suddenly see saves tick out Blur, and I'm like, where? Where did that kill come from? Either way, it doesn't really matter too much. Na'Vi able to pick up their second round, and with that, continue to be in the lead. Now, it is Oregon. It is as per usual, and I'm gonna, I've been saying it all stage 1. I've been saying it all stage 2. I've been saying it the entirety of 2022. 2020, I must say. 2022.
I was going to say, you haven't said anything 2022 yet.
See, listen, maybe I'm from the future, because the future is now.
The future is now.
Sometimes you travel back.
If any of our team here was from the future, I think you would be a good contender.
Would that be?
It would be you or it'd be Ace, I think.
Me or Ace?
Yeah, I think.
Maybe both of us.
Wow.
Who knows?
Is this like Terminator 5? It's a way less exciting Terminator.
What do you mean? These games are exciting.
No, I mean if you two came back in time to, I don't know, are you here to protect us or here to kill us, or
you never know until maybe we are here to cast, but it is our second identity to secretly protect the world from all evil beings that are
I'm glad
on the way.
I'm glad you make time.
No worries.
Anyway, you were making a point before I threw you off.
Yeah, I have no clue what the point is about.
I'm sorry. It was what you were saying about Oregon.
Ah, yeah, defense-sided. There we go. So 4-2 split is what Na'Vi is looking for. With 3-3 could still make do, but yeah, you really want to put up 4 or maybe even 5 rounds to set yourselves up very well for that second half.
Look at that in the top left. Is there one? Na'Vi lost their last game, didn't they? And it wasn't a good game
no,
for them.
That was a
7-1. Vitality sort of stormed the boards against them on club, but other than that solid streak of wins, it's something where, okay, on paper it doesn't look great there for Rogue, in that it's just a swing of losses. But as I said, they've gotten close. Hey, Secretly is making sure they don't get any closer. There's 1, there's 2, there's not quite 3. Corey and Cryan are able to get some revenge and bring themselves back in. They end up on the positive here. That is now a 2 versus 2 though, with Doki still having the angle from the hatch above, sprayed down through that gate and made sure that nobody got any closer. Leon's a bit concerned. With Blur dug in on the close corners here, he has all of the utility to try and get the pocket pressure. It's the spray round and the push onto the pillar. As you said, great call and great play there. It's an Ash between a rock and a hard place. If a rock and a hard place was Doki and Blur, the 2 absolutely monumental fraggers who have been the driving force of Na'Vi for a bit of time now, and it's a dangerous fight to find yourself in.
Rogue tried to go really quick here. They lost some on the approach. They managed to find 3 back in the result, but now Cryan, the last man standing. 1 minute 40 on the clock. It's plenty of time, but 24 HP is not really something he'll be looking forward to, try and clutch this out with. A single bullet of any of these 2 will take him out, and Doki gets that kill. Well played. And you might have heard me say, you know, like, oh, well played. But that was due to the fact that Blur pushed up at the moment that Doki took care of the flank drone above. He shot that flank drone at that moment as Diana was worried because the flank could be coming down. You need to start moving in. You need to combine yourself with the teammate that was inside of Elbow. And at that moment, Blur, with the perfect game sense, rotates in, picks him up, and turns it back into a 1v2 situation where Na'Vi are now extending their lead. It was a bold approach from Rogue, though, you have to say. And, you know, normally we would see a rush like this go and start with either the shot from a Gun 6 to open the door up instantly or a Zofia impact. Of course, Zofia isn't here. It's not really an option. The Ash Charge deals a little bit more damage if it explodes. So instead, they decided to go for something that we really haven't seen that much yet. 3 people knifing the barricade at the same time and trying to push in from there on. However, secretly too strong. Shut 2 of them down.
I mean, I think that's one of the positions that secretly has always sort of played well, is with that sort of gun set and with that mantle, sometimes you'll see a player who isn't always that big focus in terms of getting into these engagements, especially early on in the round, having the sort of mantle and the confidence, but it's a solidity you get with secretly. It's a sort of lockdown, and there is not many places better across any of the comp maps than Elbow on the attempt on a blue rush there. But one of the changes that we see now is somebody who hasn't quite been able to find their way into this game, regardless, is Aces is picking up Maverick instead, bringing a little bit extra grenades, a little bit extra potential to carve their way through some of the holds instead. And obviously we're also seeing the tertiary site for the first time.
And that is true. That means small tower might be an option that they want to go for. If a player is playing there, it's often seen as a bit of a suicide spot because it's really hard to get that out of there alive if you have been spotted out. Angles will be watched. It's secretly that's in there. And of course, the smoke, probably, well, a very valuable operator, so you don't really want to lose it, but has a great kit to stall out very long because you have the opportunity to throw out these gas canisters. You can shut them down from the window for a while. And as these grenades are about to be tossed in, I don't think they're going to be bouncing. Oh, wait, they're going to do it through the upper part. That might actually land in place. But not quite close enough, and secretly will live for now. The second grenade will be used and caught by the ADS. Of course, wouldn't have damaged him whatsoever, but still nice that the ADS will stand for now. And Ace has only 1 grenade left, that's all. They already used 3 of them. Needs to try and take care of the smoke.
Now they have a bit of an extension over there. As you can see, Saves is putting some pressure from side, but it's Blur that actually is able to get the open. I think that was just a swing from the bottom of the kitchen. There it is, so the bottom of the dining. Even the spray across the top, but it's Doki from the double window is able to then strike Aces. They're sort of entirely corralling themselves around this small tower, but Na'Vi have that safety net, that backline to protect Private secretly from the opposite ends and sides and angles of the map. There is still potentially pressure that can come up from Maddox, so Corey is paying it as much attention as possible. But at this point, Saves has actually gone for a bit of a rotation. He realizes he doesn't have to be there. Oh, look what he's discovered. An approach from the main door itself. Leon has gone for a bit of width here. Isn't going to throw himself in because he's well aware of the game that Na'Vi like to play with this width. And, well, as secretly he's able to get 1 more on the board, Corey and Leon find themselves an entire map apart, but they've at least found the saves in the middle of the sandwich.
Well, the pings are coming out, but he's not going to be able to get that kill. Saves turning around at the wrong moment there. Will be picked up by Leon Gitz. That's a start for Rogue to try and get back into the round. There's only 50 seconds left, so they need more than just a start very quickly here. They fail to do so as Doki picks up Leon now. It's only up to Corey in a 1v4 clutch. Needs to find 4 kills or get the diffuser down somehow without being disturbed and make it out alive to set himself up for a post plant. But there's not really any control that he has, and he has to go very carefully through that top floor to maybe go up to the hatch, to maybe use some of that verticality. But then he still needs to drop. He still needs to find the 2 players holding him. Then he needs Nath inside of security. It's almost a mission impossible.
Doki's coming up behind him as well, but he won't even get there in time. Secretly is able to get 1 more lock off here, and I think this is a good play from Na'Vi. Is again, when they sort of realized that the pressure was, you know, off in other places, they realized they had that advantage. Sure, you had Doki going for this big potential flank, but you look at the fact that there's 20 seconds left. The rest of them secretly had come back down from small tower. They'd restructured themselves around the site itself. They've gotten their 4th defense across the board so far. As you said, statistically, this is a map that does lend itself well between these 2 teams.
So well set up as well by Na'Vi. Like, statistically favored, yes, but the way that they managed to set up that site, one person inside small tower, that is going to be like, hey, there is one singled out.
Got to get rid of him.
All alone, we can get him quite easily, you know? Like, you just have someone at the bottom.
Theoretically.
You cannot jump down. We try and throw in some grenades. Maybe a Capita would have been a better opportunity to try and get rid of him. But what Na'Vi did, which Rogue didn't see, because this is, and I hate to say it, but mistakes that Rogue have made before. Think back on Clubhouse. I believe it was against Vitality, where they didn't drone the garage properly. They didn't know one was on rafters. Corey walks in, tries to shoot the default cam, gets punished in the process. After that, they try and take care of a freebie inside the strip, but forget to drone wet stairs, get punished for it. They have a plan. They know who they want to single out, but they do not get the surrounding information that is necessary to act upon it. Because Doki, as you said, on that main window, on that double window, able to take out two. One in the attic or one in the tower, able to provide some support as well. Like that, both those windows are covered off. Secretly, he's basically safe. And at that moment, everything is revolving around him. He is the one that needs to stay alive, and everything is there in place to protect him.
Yeah, it's one of those sort of holes that you want our desk team to throw onto the telestrator and start drawing lines and be like, this is what they see, and this is why they see it, and this is why they do what they do. But there's also one thing that is always tougher to sort of organize in terms of all of this, which is just getting in on these firefights. The fact that obviously Doki, who we've already talked about, has these fantastic games and found so much more solidity. He's currently sitting 8-1. He's happy to swing into all of these firefights, whereas at the same time, some of these familiar bodies, like Cryan, like Aces, haven't quite been able to find their way in on the same regards. Corey, though, in the meantime, is able to get rid of the aforementioned player, and it's a very big take. But you also still have Blur, who's having a great game so far, and secretly, as well as stepping into this aggression, you still got to try and remove the structure, and that's the pull and the play here. Nath, making sure that that drone stays unchecked, but he definitely wasn't. Cryan was stacked on the bottom of White Stairs. They went very heavy with the hold and the protection here. It puts Saves in a very tricky situation as everything else starts to come through on the mantle. It's the swing round from Trophy. Blur is able to get one. They put a lot towards getting the lock off. He's ready to take the hatch, and he opts to before he becomes entirely pressured.
Now, secretly, we'll have to be afraid of Rips. He's still playing around here in the corridor, holding off in showers. Hoping to catch one off guard, as Blur is going to go for a big flank here. If he's going to be quick about it, he might be able to save the round, as secretly he's definitely, well, occupying him for a little bit, dealing a bit of damage. Might have the opportunity of dropping down by opening that hatch, and that provides Blur a bit of extra room and a bit of extra space to start moving with. If he manages to pick up two on the top floor here, it's going to be very big for the side of Na'Vi.
See, they're expecting a flank, but they're expecting it from the opposite side. They have their eyes towards the Trophy now. They've got their eyes towards Attic. They've realized that there's been enough time, and again, if Blur goes unchecked, he's almost able, just locks it out. There's one more body, but he's going to hop over to the hatch, gets a free, and is able to slip away. But there is a body that's not too far away. Rips can swing on one side, Corey on the other. They're going to have to time this perfectly if they want to try and pinch this body out of there. But Corey takes the drop. The hatch was open. They find themselves elsewhere. They're waiting for Cryan to get the hold on the top. 30 seconds left. A 3 versus 2. Corey's got himself ready to try and swing, potentially on the close left, but Blur has repositioned. Blur's got himself dug in on the close corner behind a shield. Secretly he's pulled away. He suffers a little bit on the escape, but Blur, again, if he goes unchecked here, he can swing on Corey. He does. He goes for one more. Can't quite connect it. Finally found him, but you've got 10 seconds and a cold diffuser. They've got to try and pick it up. They go high. Secretly he's gone low, but he gets the game away. Cryan just sees the trails and follows them home to a second round.
The 2v4 almost clutched out there by Blur and Secretly, but the last one, a little bit too quick on the trigger. Had to wait just a little bit longer for the Ash to completely step through. And now it is Rogue that managed to pick up an extra round, and there is some smiles for sure. But there's also potentially a bit of worry, because they also know they're 2 rounds behind currently. Na'Vi, the defense was really strong previously when they played this map. Their attacks a little bit less so, but now we get to see what they've learned. Now we get to see what they have changed. Maybe if Rogue have picked up a trick or two themselves as well to make sure that Na'Vi's not able to push in as far as they might want to, and it all starts up with an opening into Duval on the south, on the game's wall. Seems like a big rotation has been made. The I think that is the eastern side, has been reinforced, so that might provide a long angle. I'm trying to figure out what it could be. Maybe all the way from White. through the door? I'm not quite sure, but we do see the openings in attic as well, just to provide the player behind the shield a bit of cover. Allow them to move on, move through, and provide cover from the bedroom.
I was waiting for this. The Aruni gates that Rips still has to put up. One is going to go on the immediate door there, the bedroom. They're going to stack the second behind it, and then potentially the third. Where is this one? It's going on a bit of an adventure. Oh no, it's already popped up there. He did it just before.
On the, yeah, bulletproof.
So they have that bulletproof. They have that protected for a little. Gives them those eyes, and I guess it's down to Na'Vi to see if they want to try and win this battle for attrition. All of that utility, yet again, focused on that extension around Trophy. The ability to swing, the ability to put some pressure back in, which is something where, I mean, Na'Vi might be able to punish it well. Caught coming up the back stairs. They're just going to drop that and open up the rotation, so they might have it as an option later on. But for now, it's nothing they can do as secretly is the one that's suffering from the double window.
I would say Na'Vi was doing the right thing. You cannot just attack Master Bedroom, and you cannot just attack the side from the attic, because those holes that have been created in the wall go both ways. It is free for Rogue to play however they want it, so you need to start pushing from both at the same time. Don't completely forget about it. Maybe it is right to push to just try and get inside a walk-in closet with a grenade or anything like that to try and deny anybody to be in there as the drone gets taken care of. They know exactly that Aces is inside. The grenade gets popped in, forces him around the corner. The second one comes in right after, and that actually picks him up. It is secretly from the roof through the window that will be making sure that that rotation is safe. And Doki's already in very far. Gets the kill onto Doki. Leon gets behind the shield. Well, he's kind of stuck now. He was supposed to provide a cover, which he failed to do so.
Now he's sprayed through. They just pre-fire, and he actually gets the drop on Secretly. Is allowed to slip away. A very precious moment here. They're going to be able to get that pickup, but they also get Leon in the meantime. They've put themselves into a 4 versus 2. You can see Saves is going for the rotation because they want to make sure that they can push that body advantage. They know that they almost clutch a 4 versus 2 into their favor again. So they don't want to try and play that game. They don't want to run any extra risks. They know if they can take this opener on their attack, they can really put themselves in a good stead to lock out this map. Rips and Crying are the back lines still sitting and waiting for a little bit more pressure to come through. A lot of openings have been utilized. There's still 3 frag grenades across Na'Vi as well, which is such a danger because we've already seen how expertly they can utilize them. Nath, he's just holding firm, seeing if he can sort of be that anchor, that back line to it as Crying goes for a bit of an explore around the double window. The spray comes and Nath just gets the bit of revenge there. It was the necessary trade that you can pull off. Rips, well, he went for something bold, but Na'Vi were already stacked up and ready to knock him down.
Angle created here by Rogues. Of course, Rogue, of course, works both ways. They wanted to have a long angle that can hold from close to the white stairs all the way to the outside of the bedroom. They managed to set up the angle, we have to say. They managed to put up some pressure from the angle, but it was going to be the other way around. Corey gonna get another nice shot. Nice shot. Ubu. There we go. Read out. Text to speech.
Text to speech, thank you.
Coppet will be very happy with that. He's gonna clip it, and he's gonna keep that. Either way, it is gonna be Na'Vi. Na'Vi leading 5-2. Only 1 round away of making it to that match point. With that, they'll secure themselves 1 point and have the opportunity to fight for 3. If you're looking at the leaderboards right now, they are currently 2 ahead of Vitality. 1 behind on BDS and 2 behind on G2. Really want to pick up these points. They finished top of the table in stage 1. They want to make sure that they have the opportunity to do so again. Now, it is not as important to end up in the first place this stage as compared to the last stage. Last stage, we didn't have a major because of the SI that was happening throughout that stage. And that means that 510 points instantly went over to NATUS VINCERE. Now the top 4, they all get 225 points, no matter where you end. But you get that spot to the major, and the major is where you get your bonus points assigned to you. The higher you end, the more points you get. That's as simple as it goes. And Na'Vi, all they need to do is be in that top 4. Of course, you want to go for the overall standings for at the end of stage 3 when we have the European League finals, which were won by G2. You can almost say by a toe shot of Virtue onto BDS in the previous year, but that's too far out. First, the major is on the schedule. That is the first thing they want to lock themselves in for, and whatever comes after, comes after. Simple as it is.
Well, what comes first is Doki. steadily entering here on small tower, going to try and apply some pressure here. They had at least 2 drones whirring and working underneath them. Na'Vi aren't taking any immediate chances. Blur is above as well, and there's an Echo drone tucked in the corner that's going to give the call as soon as they go for the swing. Potentially want to try and hit and then hit with a swing from Cryan here, but they seem well aware, and Cryan doesn't want to quite take that pressure as of yet. Is going to let them sort of formulate and stack themselves close. Blur, in the meantime, is opening up the big angles towards the bigger stairs to make sure that if anybody goes for a bit of loose movement there, they have some angles. It's good spatial control here from Na'Vi. The worry is if, obviously, Rogue try and find a slip out, and that's kind of what they're accounting for. They're saying, well, if they go up tower, we have this angle from here that's going to make them second-guess it. If we go down the stairs, well, we've been able to put the pressure here. The escape of the Echo drone and Cryan means that, yet again, they've shepherded them more and more and corralled, and with a minute 30, loads of time to go for an execute.
It's definitely loads of time, and I was going to say, Cryan, basically, or maybe even the only player that runs Ela Scorpion on this site. What we do normally see is the FO12 on those stairs, trying to take out as many players as possible. Of course, for now, playing with that Scorpion might come in handy as soon as Doki is starting to try and throw out the challenge. From either pillar or from the hatches, it's Rips to go down first, though. That is a very, very crucial pick. That is the Echo now injured. They're not going to be able to secure that kill. It's Cryan that picks him up right after, but a new grenade gets tossed in. It's going to be just too late, however. That could have been a double kill if it was just a little bit earlier. But for now, Na'Vi are, well, finding themselves still in a 5v5 situation.
I mean, they're really enjoying the use of grenades, and to be fair, almost secured them the opening kill twice. Instead, they're going to go for the spray and the swing round. The drop on the E-box is quickly sort of battled back against it. They found themselves with a body disadvantage, the same pace that we saw come through, at least on the execute before, but they have way less time to try and formulate it. Suddenly, Doki is alone versus the rest of the world right now, knows that there's a body close behind the pillar, is going to go for the swing, tries to put the pressure on even further, can't quite get the guessing game together. And Rogue find themselves another round and keep themselves, most importantly, off map point.
With that Yokai drone, there was no way they were going to be able to win that guessing game. And indeed, as you said, Rogue keeping themselves off match point for now. Na'Vi, if they would have been able to get the kill down, maybe even a double with that second grenade, if it was a second earlier, that would have been a great double opening even. And completely freeze her under control, maybe more importantly. And now they find themselves at, well, still 5-3. Rogue is starting to creep closer just ever so slightly, but still that 2-round advantage that they have been working with throughout most of the game. As the Thatcher is getting brought out by saves. We're heading to that top floor. And now you might be thinking, all right, but if we were looking at the setup that Rogue has set up before, there was no real need for a Thatcher. And if you're looking over at the other side, you just see that mute. Now, that does mean that there will be mute jammers, and as you can see this time around, Rogue will be closing up the entire wall. It's not going to be creating the same rotation as they did before, and thus the Thatcher now coming in is just going to be tossing in that EMP. X-Kairos will follow up, and the wall will be opened up and create angles for Na'Vi as they see fit. And of course, the other thing, like, it will also happen on side at the back of Attic. Just a simple EMP is all you need to get rid of that, well, pesky mute jammer. Whereas again, we see that same use of the Iruni Surya laser gate with the bulletproof cam. It is a nice little trick, you know. It's just punch into the wall, make sure that you can put the bulletproof inside, and then you guard it off with a Surya laser gate to make sure that, well, they need to use 2 pieces of utility if they want to clear it.
More attention is being paid over to Attic this time as the opener. Previously, it was just Blur, who I think was on the sledge last time we were here. This time, they've opted for the Nook instead for just this very game. Can I, instead of being detected by the camera they were sat on before, actually creep around? And well, they're able to get rid of it either way. They'll give the presence, but the presence, I think, was already known, and you could sort of see Rogue went, well, let's not play that. Sounds like multiple guns. We're not set up, and we have our setup, so let's fall back to that instead. Secretly is steadily just trying to open up the angles to make sure that nobody is going for something hyper-aggressive here, and well, that's that hyper-aggressive spot cleared off, hopped up on the white box, so instead it allows them to sort of start to play their way across. Blur is sort of opting and acting as the cover to make sure that, well, secretly doesn't get dropped in the meantime.
Definitely providing some options here, allowing him to feel a little bit safer, not being afraid of being pushed while he does that work with the blowtorch. Now the rest of Na'Vi is waiting in the meantime. They want to open up. There's 2 players on their own though. Cryin and Aces both with the Nitro Cell available in hand and are going to be tossing that one up into Classroom. That is Nave going to be losing his life any second now. Yes, you would assume so, but they haven't even tossed up that Nitro Cell. They are keeping them for the late game, potentially to stall out or cancel out a plant. That could be a bit dangerous because that flank could be, well, proving lethal.
Well, Blair, in the meantime, moved over to the double window, but look at Aces going over to the small tower. He's going to see if he can get potentially a big blow and a hop out here. He's a player that hasn't quite been able to have the big impact that you would want, and especially in a game like this, Blair would have heard that window smash, and especially seen that, and look at that as the spray round, the quick reaction, but it's more focus and more attention that now has to be paid. They're trying to make Na'Vi uncomfortable, and they've been able to put a couple of scratches in, but all of this is intel of saying, well, we know that they're slightly further away, so maybe we can try and drive ourselves in, push this advantage that we can otherwise do so well. Blur is able to get the open from the double window as the swing starts to come around. Doki's driven his way all the way into the kid's side, gets 1, gets 2, and gets a lot of clarity here. The 2 red bodies underneath are quickly trying to find their way back round. 1 C4 still in pocket, but Nath is making sure that that diffuser isn't in his pocket much longer. Another one tacked onto Doki's tally as he gets the triple on the top of white, and they find themselves with a quad left ahead of them. Cryin has a lot of work to do to see if he can try and pull this back into his favor. And unfortunately, a soft barricade is going to give the intense game away. Doki gets the quad instead. Na'Vi get themselves on map point.
Very well played, swiftly as well, and Blur manages to get a very long kill, you can say, all the way from the big window into the kid's bedroom. Opens up the opportunity, pulls the attention towards himself and allows Doki to move in from the attic. Pick up multiple kills, open up the site completely, enable the plant, and there was only 1 Nitro left in that case. It was going to be able to potentially find someone, of course didn't happen, but then you still have 3 other players on the site left. They could have easily picked up that diffuser and gone for it, and especially with the barricade that was still there. And now we have ourselves in a situation where Na'Vi has put themselves onto a match point. 6-3. That's the current score. And Rogue, well, their chances of making the major have already basically evaporated because they needed a full 3-point win here today to even have a potential to still make it. And even then, it would have been very difficult. But either way, they're going to try and get as many points out of it as they still possibly can, because they will be playing the long game now. Their stage 2 opportunities are gone, but the yearly opportunities are still there. So these points will still matter. These rounds do still matter for Rogue, just as much as they do for Na'Vi. And of course, they might be a little bit, broken about the fact that it is yet again going to be a fight for overtime, and yet again going to be a fight to potentially reach a win in overtime. Whereas Na'Vi, well, they feel themselves setting up and putting themselves ever so slightly closer towards a potential spot in the 6th Major Mexico.
Na'Vi, currently eyeing towards 2nd, and obviously it's still, one of the early games of the day, and you've got G2 and BDS, who are 2 teams that are still sort of fighting for those positions as well, not long after, so it's a start for them, but it's by no means the end of the day and the end of where they might potentially end up. Rogue, though, as you said, their story is unfortunate. This split, I think it's Na'Vi, they're so quick to punish these mistakes that they're able to pull out of this hole. They're reading into the sort of little bits, little moments. And I said, as soon as they got the idea and impression that there was 1 less body, Na'Vi's a team that loves to strike in that situation. They're more than happy to sort of push, okay, well, if we lose you, I'll get the trade, I'll get the cover, and we can dig ourselves in, we can find a little bit of an opportunity, Doki can find a little bit of a corner and swing round.
Now, this is going to be very interesting because we saw this kind of same setup from Rogue against VP. However, the big difference is that Leon Gids now is playing on a Wamai. That is giving you some extra discs to work with. Not quite the Nitro that you need to toss out the window. However, we do see that on the side of Cryin. However, Na'Vi, they probably saw what happened there as well. And if 2 players are inside the small tower, you can just choose to ignore them. You can just choose to go for the master bedroom, secure any piece of cover they might have. Tosses in the grenade there. Doki is already in the back of bunks, and Save is coming up close to try and support him as well. Because they have no clue on Rogue that Doki is in this deep already.
And there it is. Blur is working those drones away, seeing if they can pull some of this intel. Doki, however, has dug his way through, got one, goes for two, but Rips is at least able to stem that flow before it turns into another disaster of Doki digging their way through. Blur, with a grenade over the top, just bounces off the frame of the door, but is more than enough of a signal for Rips to get out of there. They know they don't need to lose their life in this position. Instead, they're prepping themselves to pull further and further back. You can go for these big rotations on Oregon, as we've seen Na'Vi demonstrate, as we've seen Rogue go for a couple of times as well, and the more limited ideas that we've had of them in this play. And, you know, it's something where you don't drastically have to lose your life for these firefights. The amount of sort of soft, the big distance between the three different staircases and the many angles that allow you to get a little bit of cover and support when you try and move up them can build to some success. Talking of Rips, who's really been one of those forces keeping Rogue alive, and a lot of these rounds is able to get one more.
Indeed so. Na'Vi, however, is setting themselves up well. They created a rotation into the side to go for the default plant. They just need to deal with the player that is inside the classroom and inside the security. Blur will do exactly that, gets the first one. But the question is, do they know about the one roamer inside the classroom that has the opportunity of striking hard? It's Crying, actually, that's deciding to go for the rotate now. That is going to be that pressure gone, and that allows Nave now to go for a plant in deep inside of the kitchen. Crying was supposed to say in classroom he was going to be able to stop this plant from happening. Misses the nitro now as well, and that means 45 seconds are on that clock. We're in a post-plant position now, 3v3, and the Na'Vi members are pulling back as far as they possibly can, whilst Nave digs himself in deep right behind. Kitchen appliance there, just waiting.
Well, Leon opens up in the best possible way with a double. Blur tries, but cannot quite get the overwhelm on the top. And Rogue, they're able to get that post-plant, they're able to get that diffuser gone, they're able to get themselves a fourth round on the board here. As you said, we sort of saw Crying pull away from the position to stop that. They potentially tried to reformulate for a whole retake. Maybe just misunderstood where the plant was being attempted. Potentially thought it was a little bit deeper onto the kitchen side. It didn't look like they were angling for the control of the default either way, behind the box. Potentially they were also assuming it was default and looking to get the cover from the kitchen side. It's a lot of potentials, but thankfully they got the rounds. They don't have to dwell on that too long.
Definitely so. That again puts the gap back down to 2. How often have we been here in this game? So often the gap has been 2 between these two teams. Every single time, however, it was Na'Vi that instantly managed to get around right afterwards and brought it back to 3. And if they do that now, then they take the win. They take the 3 points, and Rogue will be sent home as the losers of the game. Of this game. Of course, their Stage 2 aspirations no longer there, but the long game must be played. Preparing for Stage 3, potentially making a big comeback there, whilst getting as many points as you possibly can to make sure that you are not going through the same stress they've been through at the start of the 2021 season, when they were finding themselves in that relegation matchup against M&M, which they did win quite comfortably. But you might not be as successful if it happens a second time around. Because I believe that was actually the first game in Europe where ever a Pro League team did not relegate out in that relegation matchup. All the time they lose. And Rogue were the first team to win it. But that isn't guaranteed that it will happen a second time. Or a third.
Crying with a pre-place under the double window, hoping that somebody hops in to try and get some early advantage. Hey, here's 2 people that are looking to try and hop in some windows. Blur is the one that's going towards the double here. He's been somebody who has gone for these bit of a loose plays, and as he eyes up, he's looking for a little bit of width, hoping to be swung from the top of White Stairs. Nobody is currently home. I'm curious what intel that they have feeding to them from this location, as Blur is actually droning it out first. Would have potentially heard the beeping, would have heard the danger here. They're still going for a bit of clarity, and Doki is going to try and dig their way up. It's the Echo drone of Corey from Rogue, and this is a bit of a ploy, but the longer Crying's in that situation at the bottom of White Stairs, you can see that Iana is going for more and more of a clear instead, so he just pops it. Crying realizes he cannot hang around there any longer.
Definitely so, and will be pushing back, and this allows Na'Vi to move in a little bit further as well. Rogue, for the big major part, have given up on their roam, and Ace is setting up some punch holes there because, you know, bullet holes are no longer really a thing, so you need to go back to the good old punch holes, and that means making multiple ones in the same wall, so they have to be guessing on which one your head will be. And secretly, just quickly sending in some shots. Blur shortly will do the exact same thing. It's again going to be Doki on the backstairs, quickly dealing with a Banshee with that Gun 6, just to make sure that he has the opportunity to move down in the quickest space he possibly can imagine. As Na'Vi is quickly going for the final pieces of their setup. The collapse will soon be happening. A couple of guys from the freezer, a couple of them will be coming in from the back stairs. And potentially one from Laundry or Blue. I'm not quite sure yet where Nath will go, but definitely going for it.
Chances are it's going to be something that they try a little bit quick and they force the bodies out. There it is, saves. Gets the opener, is able to get the take down those Laundry stairs. There's still 6 grenades in the pocket of Na'Vi 2, a tool that they've been able to utilize so consistently well. They're waiting for the right moment to try and apply that pressure, and here it starts to come. Dropping on the barbs on the default plant spot, trying to isolate Aces, who's gone a little bit further forward. There's the push down the side of Freezer as well, but they punish Rips with the pre-idea of they're going to try and swing this when we go for that grenade. They couldn't get the kill before with the nade itself, and they made sure the adaptation that Rogue tried to apply there was demonstrated poorly too. Now, with that canister popping off, it buys them a few seconds of Laundry to focus their fight elsewhere. The grenades are starting to try and shape their way around. They're trying to just drive the bodies back and give themselves a bit of space in the entrance of the flat firefight, and the floor here is crying, is trying to make sure their landing is rough. It's Doki down the back corridor, drops
Doki.
1, drops 2, and with the third coming, a flawless end, a Na'Vi day.
Beautifully played there. Doki able to get those final 2. Even stands up from his chair. Quickly going back down, realizing they got the win. The therms are up, and they also realize that for now they're in the second place of the EUL. They, again, get a little step closer towards, well, not even a little step now, a big step closer towards the 6th major in Mexico. That is what their eventual goal will be. Just to pick up some more SI points where they will be able to potentially go to SI at the end of the year, because we said it at the end of Stage 1. The best teams at the moment are not there from Europe. Na'Vi was one of them, and they are eager to go back. But let's toss it over to the analyst desk.
Thanks so very much, my friends. We are back from an Oregon between Rogue